lost about 5 of them.
Oh, goodness. Well, looks like we are live. Welcome, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Dave Cohen. I'm a director here at Level Up. I'd like to welcome you all to our ongoing virtual series, Meet the Directors, which we've created to introduce you to our leadership team here at Level Up. What we're hoping to do here is to help you get to know the team leading the work here at Level Up. We're a young and growing company, and the folks involved with this enterprise are amazing privacy professionals who are passionate about the work we do and have varied backgrounds. So we thought it would be fun to showcase their talents and history for you. So in this episode, I have the pleasure of interviewing not only a fellow director here at Level Up, but also a longtime friend and former colleague from my days at the IAPP, Wills Catling. Wills, welcome.
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, very nice to be here.
Thanks for joining us today. I know you've got a busy project workload, so we appreciate you making some time for us. Wills came on board here at Level Up just over a year ago and has a rich experience in the privacy and data governance field. Wills, can you start us off by telling us just a little bit about your professional background and maybe how you got started in the field?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like many people, never heard of privacy until I got into the field, and it was certainly not something I kind of aspired to, I suppose, 15, 16 years ago when I got into it. My background was always financial services. I'd worked in insurance, I'd worked in the mortgage industry, I'd worked in the real estate industry, investments, and then obviously 2008 came around and the whole world just changed overnight, or maybe not overnight, but changed dramatically. So at that point, I realized maybe a different career path was a direction to go, and that brought me to the IAPP and data privacy. And at the time, it was definitely a field that was dominated by legal compliance, and a lot of it centered around, especially in the US, notice and choice. And I worked at the IAPP for I think 7, 8 years, and watched the world change dramatically. 2016 GDPR comes into play, 2018 goes into effect, and that just changed the world of data privacy dramatically. It gave it a voice, and in I think it was 2014, 15, I happened to be having lunch with Simon McDougall, who at then was the managing director for the privacy group at Promontory Financial Group, and he offered me an opportunity to come into the world of consulting, which I thought was very interesting and exciting. So I took that leap of faith and spent the next 8 years at Promontory. We were acquired by IBM during that period, but it was an amazing period of learning, the leadership, the opportunities I had to work with people like Simon.
Well, and Wills, yeah, for many of listening here, probably know Simon from after Promontory, from his role over at the ICO, very prominent role over at the ICO, right?
Yeah, and then Rob Grosvenor took over the practice group, another amazing individual, very well respected. And I got to work with a lot of great people. It could be like an award ceremony here. I could just do this. I'd like to thank my mum. And I had I had mentors that were fantastic, that taught me all about the world of data privacy, about the strategic implementation of privacy programs, about understanding how companies work with data and how to build programs, how to understand that, yes, privacy is a compliance requirement, but there needs to be a strategy around how an organization implements their privacy program and the goals of the organization as a whole. So, during those years, that helped me to work on discovery, review, assessments, providing recommendations, and working with, very complex organizations, not just in the US, but around the world. And building out frameworks, assessing their programs, helping them to think strategically, like I said, about data privacy, data protection. And as you said, a year ago, I've known Eric for probably most of my 16 years in data privacy. Back when his early days with Sonera, when he used to be at the IPP conferences. So I always remember talking with Eric, and then last year I had the opportunity to join the team here at Level Up, and I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, and it's great to have you here, Wills. And hearing you just talk recently about your background in the financial services and the insurance industries, that must have provided a really good foundation for the work here, the privacy and data governance work in that they're heavily regulated industries, with a lot of necessary auditing work, and as you say, framework assessments and standards. So probably good preparation for getting into privacy, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe even from a side that you wouldn't think is that, if I go back, and I'm aging myself a little bit here, but, I worked in the UK for 8 years for a large insurance company. And I spent another 8 years or 10 years here working in financial services. And during that time, privacy was a byword would be building it up to a level that it probably didn't even have.
Mm,
And I can remember, when like clear desk policies came in, and just nobody could get their head around why they had to clear their desk every night, when the fact that, the files they had on their desk had just about every piece of personal information you could possibly
right.
need. I mean,
Right.
you didn't have to go far. I mean, there'd be credit reports, there'd be applications, there would be bank statements, driver's licenses,
Mm-hmm.
everything you could possibly need to steal somebody's identification. And at the time, 20 plus years ago, there was just no thought of protecting that data, or what that data could be misused for if it wasn't protected correctly. So I kind of saw it from the other side. I saw it as people, fighting against, why do we have to do this,
Hmm.
before realization that, people have a right to their data, or an expectation that their data is going to
Yeah.
be protected.
Yeah, you and I got into the field at roughly the same time. I started in about 2008 over at the IAPP, and I remember, as you do, that it used to take a number of minutes to explain what we did, and what privacy was. But of course, these days, everybody gets it right away. And it's gone from kind of a legal compliance issue, which of course it still is a legal compliance issue, to a customer trust and people needing to know that they have faith that the organizations that they hand over their personal information to are going to treat it with respect and properly and secure it properly. So
Yeah.
it's been quite an evolution. And also, and you and I've talked about this before, Will's the evolution from a primarily legal field, as you mentioned. In the early days, you'd go to the conferences and it was heavily lawyers, and it still is, and of course it's still very much a legal profession. But to watch the explosion of the technology within the industry, especially within the last few years, has been really incredible. As technology has evolved and adapted, and the laws have proliferated and the needs have increased, it's been really fascinating to see that evolution from primarily legal to now you go to the conferences and you just see rows and rows of privacy technology vendors.
Yeah, that didn't exist when we got into the field. It was DLP and maybe the odd bridge response from the big three
Right.
credit unions, but the technology was not what it is now. And I think you make a really good point. It's like consumer awareness. I mean, I go back to, as you say, when you and I started all those years ago, you'd try and explain, and always used to be my kind of like lead in when I would meet new clients. And it's like, I always say, I got into privacy before privacy was cool. It's
Yeah.
like, you'd be at any kind of function in the holidays and people were, oh, what are you doing? And you'd tell them what you were doing and you could see blank faces and they'd just turn and
Mhm.
walk away, and you'd be sitting on your own in the corner with a plate of hors d'oeuvres and a glass of not such great wine, possibly. Um, but nowadays, people, as you said, consumers are aware. They actually approach you and ask questions and want more interest. As soon as you say you do it, the first thing they say is, "Oh my goodness, you must be so busy."
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, it's certainly something that's becoming more consumer aware,
Mhm.
which I think drives a lot of things for organizations. And I think, I mean, you and I were talking going back to Simon McDougall when he said, you know, privacy professionals had, for many years sat in that dark corner of an office, like begging for budget, begging for resources to do things. And then along came the GDPR and shone a spotlight on them. And suddenly they were on stage. It was like they were getting what they needed to do what they
Yeah.
always wanted to do. So yeah, you and I have seen this industry come from almost nothing to where it is today, which is as you said, is the technology that's supporting it, and the when you go to the IAPP conferences or other conferences, and you look at the exhibit hall, what used to be 20 booths, the majority of them, as you said, legal firms. Now it's hundreds of technology or hundreds of booths, and the majority of them are providing some kind of solution using technology to help companies with their compliance efforts.
Yeah, and it's been an exciting path for us too, and that the growth of our team um, belies the need, and still, as you say, it's easier to get budget for privacy program managers and compliance managers, but still a challenge, and so. It's fantastic having the ability to help teams internally and our clients get their privacy program houses in order, and all the different facets of that. Not to mention the AI governance, which is probably a topic for a whole nother program here. But moving on, Wills, we just have a few minutes left here. Beyond privacy, I know you live here in the Seacoast area, not too far from where I live, in the coast of Maine and New Hampshire. Can you tell us a little bit about what occupies your time when you're outside of work?
I've got 4 daughters, one
Yeah.
grandson, and a granddaughter on her way, so they certainly fill my time.
Mhm.
I do have an unhealthy obsession with Peloton, which no, for good or for
Healthy or
bad.
unhealthy, depending on how
Yeah,
you look
I know,
at it.
it's
Yeah.
like, but unhealthy, healthy, I don't know.
Yeah.
And obviously, being a Brit, I am utterly crazy about, I'm going to say football, but soccer to the American
Football,
audience.
fair enough. Yes,
Yeah,
even for us
lifetime
Americans.
Arsenal fan. I've been an Arsenal fan since I was probably before I could even probably say the word. So I've lived through
Mhm.
bad times, good times, bad times, hoping we're coming into
Quite a
some
year
good
this year, but not quite there. Yeah,
not
good
quite
run.
last year, so starts on
Yeah.
Saturday. So fingers
Mhm.
crossed.
Yeah. Terrific. And just to kind of close out, Wills, can you let the audience know a little bit about what you're currently working on? Just kind of giving them a flavor of the day to day. What are a few of the projects that you've been working on? What kind of types of activities have we been helping our clients with?
Sure. Continue to work with. I mean, I think just to touch on the technology thing, it's technology is great, but you've got to have the people and the processes behind it. And I
Mhm.
think that's critical to remind organizations that you can't just buy the software and expect it to do everything for you. You've got to have the people that understand how to use it, and you've got to have the processes defined to make sure you're using it constructively and to the fullest of its ability. So continuing to see companies now coming back around, and a lot of companies did privacy assessments when they were getting ready for GDPR or getting ready for CCPA as kind of the two big regulations that kind of drove a lot of privacy compliance work. And we're starting to see, that's now been a few years, and the world has changed a little bit. How data is collected, used, stored, shared has continued to evolve over the past 6 years since GDPR went into effect. So we're definitely seeing companies coming back to us and asking us to reassess their programs, whether it's against NIST or whether it's against other. There are plenty of other regulatory frameworks out there you can use, but trying to make sure where they stand, and also looking at things like privacy maturity. So maybe not so much anymore looking at where do the gaps exist per se, but looking at where does their program stack up against its peers, and where is that maturity level sitting of the controls they've put in place, and where can they look to enhance those controls to improve the maturity of their program, and also document where the maturity is considered to be sufficient for what they do with the data. Seeing a lot of that. Data mapping continues to be data inventories, pick your poison for how you want to name it. Companies continue to need support in either still standing up data mapping, data inventory programs, but also renewing, automating, improving those, helping to build out those privacy governance models. As I said, the people and the process that sit behind the technology, helping companies to understand what that should look like, and helping to develop out documentation to support that. Starting to work in the AI governance assessment, and then helping to support any kind of strategic initiatives they might have to try and mitigate some of the gaps or risks that they identify. And then also working with companies to align privacy risk to more of a broader organizational wide risk model, so that privacy risk is understood at the C-suite and with senior executives in the same way that even though privacy risk is different to security risk, and that's a whole nother conversation, but aligning the two programs in a way that it can report out efficiently and accurately and consistently to senior executives.
Yeah, that last part is some part of the work that I've particularly enjoyed, and that is after we've done the kind of heavy lifting of helping our project sponsors with all of the various tasks and activities that you just described, breaking that down and putting together and helping them communicate to upper management why it's important, what we've done, what needs to happen next, and getting those communications together has been is always a challenge, but always a great satisfying activity when we can help our sponsors argue for the importance of their work internally. So, well, Willis, thanks for that, for all of that so much. Thanks for making a few minutes for us today. Really appreciate it. And thanks to all of you out there in the audience for making just a few minutes to listen in and get to know Wills and the rest of our team. I think we're a little past halfway introducing our leadership team here at Level Up. So we've got a few more to cover. Hope you can join us for those as well. And we will post some contact information for both myself and for Wills if you'd like to get in touch with us. We would love to hear from you. And stay tuned for some very exciting news from our firm that's coming up shortly within about a week or two. So stay tuned for that. And until the next one, thanks everybody one last time for joining us. And I hope to see you on a future edition of this series. Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of the day, rest of the week. And with that, we'll sign us off. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you.